Hi, so talking about a book seems to be a reasonable enough way to procrastinate, which is what I'm doing here. So I'm going to talk about the book Girl in the Train by Paula Hawkins. And this, whatever I'll be talking about, it has spoilers. So if you want to read the thriller, this might not be a good idea to watch it till the end. But I have to say that what appealed to me about the book was not so much the plot point and the aspects of it that make it a thriller, but more on that later. This is my very first structured speech, so to speak. So that's a first. Anyway, so the plot is basically about this woman. She's suffering from alcoholism, and she takes the train from her apartment to her workplace every day. And on the way, the train stops at a signal, and at the signal, she sees a couple inside a house, and she basically they are in her line of vision, and she is very intrigued by their life. She gives them names, she imagines their story, she imagines what they must be like as a couple, what do they fight on, what do they meet, what do they agree on, and things like that. And then one day she sees something that indicates that something's not quite all right. As the book progresses, you come to know of different things about this girl's world. One is that she was actually living in another house just a few blocks down from the one that she keeps seeing in the train, and what she misses about her life, which she was sharing with her husband at that time, that's what she projects onto this couple that she notices in the train. And then the story, of course, goes through its beats, and it has its different twists. But what really appealed to me was the way certain aspects of female friendships, female shame is explored. If you've read Gone Girl, in fact, if you've even seen the movie, there is a part where the protagonist talks about the cool girl, and how the cool girl is a myth. It's a myth. It's a construct by a male perspective, that women don't feel bad, women don't feel insecure, the cool girl doesn't feel bad about things. The cool girl will laugh off a lewd joke. She is very okay with the husband having friends of the opposite sex, or the partner having friends of the opposite sex, being really cool with the man being okay with his ex, things like that. And that's a theme that is actually explored here really well. This girl was married to someone, and then they broke up, and her ex-husband now has a wife, and that woman is pregnant. Her ex-husband actually cheated on her, and he's basically married to the woman he cheated on her with. You see the story of this girl's devolution into a very dark space, and then you follow the story of even that other woman, and how she also starts doing the same things that this woman was doing, because the man is actually forcing all the women in his life, I think, into one space of suffocation, a very emotional, dark suffocation, where if anybody has been in any relationship with someone where you've always had to prove your worth, you kind of know how claustrophobic that can get. So this particular book actually explores that perspective from the point of view of several women. So that is interesting. And you know how you may feel that, oh, I'll never be that as pathetic as her, but then you do that, you become as pathetic as someone you look down on. So that was one thing that I really liked. The other thing, which was actually, it opened my eyes, and that was how, you know uh, how you bring on shame and pass judgment on someone who is suffering from an addiction by being seemingly well intentioned. You give the advice, you say things like, oh, but look at me, even I've gone through something like that. And you don't realize what is happening with the other person. And if what's happening with the Okay, I was just, my mom was looking at me. Okay, so you don't realize what's happening with the other person. That person is anyway dealing with addiction that is not making them feel good about themselves, and then there is you, uh, who is offering a lot of help, a lot of information, a lot of advice, but none of the sympathy. And that alienates in far deeper ways than someone who outrightly criticizes. This particular aspect, I don't know, it resonated with me really strongly, so much so that I read that paragraph, late one night, and I called up the friend who had gone through something similar, and I was around him at that time. And I remember, I called him up and I said, listen, I'm sorry, I did not know what you were going through. And he he was gracious enough to, actually, he wasn't gracious, he just said, why have you woken me up this late? Fair enough, that's also a fair point. But what I'm saying is that aspect, that if that aspect of how tyrannical you can be by seeming to be good is a beautiful paradox, and I think that she's brought that out really powerfully. Then, of course, there's a murder, something happens, and then you catch the killer, and how, this thing that even if you've had a really bad breakup with somebody, you still want to attribute some amount of nobility to them simply because you don't want to accept that you were in such a dark space that you fell in love, or you gave yourself to someone so so disturbing. But yes, there is that. And um, the book ends on a it ends. It's one kind of ending, and it ends on a note that sort of indicates that something will continue, uh, and it, and it just felt really, really simple, you know. And when something is really simple, it tugs your heart in a very different way, right? So it was a very tiny little piece of redemption where you see this woman who had hit rock bottom, and she had basically carved out an atlas of a lonely heart for herself. She goes to a beachside just to make amends with her past, and and you know and all her dreams that were shattered at that point. And actually, that's also a running theme in the book, about women who have children, women who want to be mothers, women who were mothers but they didn't want to be mothers, or they weren't ready at that time. So there is that theme also that basically runs through a couple of characters. And you know and I think that for me, that was the takeaway, more than the plot of the book, or something like that. That you get dealt a hand, and then you get dealt a hand, and then you do the best that you can, and with the hand that you're dealt, if you can stay kind, there's victory. Thank you.